You guys want to say?
I would say let's talk about goal settings, man. I do. This is now like my third year doing this for my company, and how, um, and now I now have an employee. So how I do goal setting, how we do it for the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. But I think I'll even kick it off. Like
Yeah.
this is one of those things where the first year when I first started this, I kind of was thinking of myself more like a freelancer, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about like a business owner or anything like that. So it took a while for me to learn a lot of these skills. But people, a lot of times that I meet who are entrepreneurs, like, yeah, the next year is going to be better. I'm like, well, how? What are you planning? And they don't really have an answer other than I want to make more sales, I want to make more money. And I think just drilling down and like reverse engineering it and having a clear path. Like for me this year, this was the year of like systems and processes because I was determined to hire somebody on a part-time basis. And I knew the first step of that was for me to have all of my answers written down. What type of workflow do we use? How do we onboard clients? How do we do our invoicing? How do we troubleshoot? How do we have offer support? Like we do a lot of web development, stuff like that, and just breaking it down. And excuse me, there's also a lot to say
It's
in
okay. You
terms
can
of
drink
like
your beer. Go ahead and drink your beer. You're not gonna offend us.
stuff.
Your throat's dry. It's
I just think there's a lot.
You're parched, man. You're parched.
you're
I'm
parched.
parched.
You drunk. You boozer.
Okay, I don't know if that made it better or if it made it worse, but we're gonna keep going. I will
Keep
say
drinking, it'll
though,
get better.
pardon.
Just keep drinking, it'll get better.
It'll get, yeah, eventually it's going to get there. Um, I would say though that Google Docs is your friend. Like I use just writing everything down, whether it's a piece of paper, whatever works for you, and just making as detailed of a plan to how you're going to get there. Now, for myself, detailed is monthly goals because if you've been an entrepreneur for long enough, you know that even as me, a struggling YouTube artist, you know, having expectations and then you have to have a wiggle room to say, oh, I'm going to release a video every week. So you know what? I'm going to try to release 2 videos every month. And I like to do monthly things. So if something happens one week where I'm busy with something else, that I still have wiggle room to do things. And that's how macro I get in my goal planning. I don't know. That's kind of like my vibe. I try to break what's my goal for every single month. What are the sales goals? What are the development goals? What are the business marketing? How I market myself? What are those goals? All those different types of things. That's how I
hmm
break it down per month.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great. I think that the thing that really stands out to me with regards to what you're saying, Bart, is the fact that you have to know the tonality, the rhythm, and the cadence of your business. But then beyond that, once you kind of get a sense of that, you have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to be the heart and soul of your business and be in your business, or do you want to transition to working on your business, right? There's a difference between working in your business and working on your business, and most entrepreneurs, they get kind of stuck, and creative professionals get kind of stuck in the hamster cycle or the hamster wheel of just staying working in your business because you can do what you're trying to get hired to do, right? Like you can do the photography, or you can do the video editing, or you can do the website design or whatever else. But at a certain point, if you want to actually scale up, there has to be a level of processes, like you said before, but then also a level of understanding that you need help and that you need to trust other people to do some of your work in order to get some of those larger, loftier goals done. And that's something I realized this year too, as well, is like, just because I can do everything, I don't, it doesn't mean that I need to do everything. And I knew that from before, but I really value that now. I value that a lot more, in the sense of like, you know, just because I can edit doesn't mean I have to edit every single thing. Doesn't mean I have to take every single photo. Doesn't mean I have to answer every single email. It doesn't mean that I have to be on every single production shoot, right? I can manage a team without necessarily having to be in that team on that day, which is a little scary for me, because I'm so used to doing the thing that just managing it requires a level of gusto to just trust that people will do what they say they're skilled and they're learned to do, right?
Yeah, just don't call me to shoot a wedding, okay, fam? I don't want you to get no more
No,
soft
listen, I'm
footage.
I'm never gonna call you to
No,
shoot a
no.
wedding again. That's for sure. Don't worry about that. But
Yo,
Will,
this guy.
no, go. What were you saying, Bart?
I was just like, yo, this guy was so vexed on multiple occasions. Listen,
Listen, man.
I do gotta shout Tristan out for allowing me to grow in that space. I don't know how much growth there was or how much growth you saw, Tristan, but I now charge people a lot of money with with more zeros on it to film stuff. But I don't think I would have ever ventured that
Wow.
way if you never showed me your dad's a Mark II Canon, the 5D Mark II, and you were the first person to kind of show me like, yo, this thing like shoots video, and I'm like, what? And it just kind of blew my brains. They were like, "Yo, what?" And then I started to see some of the stuff you were doing, and we were part of a church, and we started producing some stuff together. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, I'm loving this. This is how we can make church stuff be a lot better and a lot more conducive to like match what's happening in the real world and in media." And we both, all three of us, went to Seneca, so we already know what the industry standard was, and that was like a entry level way to get closer to industry standard, and then giving me real opportunities at event photography and videography, and those opportunities are the things that kind of allow me to learn and grow. And I never would have thought that I would own as much video production gear as I do now. And like, yo, I just bought a drone. I have multiple lights. I'm thinking about buying a second body. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much stuff that's happening. But I genuinely think, like, if you want something in your life, in for you in your pathway, you got to first always find somebody who's been there before. There's some things that are always free. Being curious, being honest, being open, those things are free tools to make you a better person. And if you are honest and you go find somebody and you say, listen, I'm trying to learn something, I'll work for free, or I'll shadow you, or I'll take a nominal payment, whatever it is, and I want to learn, you probably will find somebody who will say, come, sure, follow me for a day, or I can spare some of my time. But yeah, like, those type of things are invaluable from getting you from like amateur to like semi-pro to maybe even professional in whatever craft it is.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think that at the end of the day, um, the world is your oyster, and I think in a lot of ways, it's funny that we're talking like this, and we're doing this discussion, and it kind of leads me into my next question, but also kind of another talking point. But for those of you that have watched Soul, you'll probably understand where I'm going with this. But the whole idea or the whole theme, general themes of Soul, is like really um, understanding how to gauge and identify purpose, but then also how to gauge and identify living, what living actually means, right? And I think in a lot of ways we look at living as attaining or getting to a certain goal or a certain place, instead of the actual journey it takes to achieve that goal or to get to that said place. Will, what do you think about that? Like, what are your thoughts about like goal setting? Yes, but then also just the idea as a creative professional, um, how to kind of manage and gauge your growth. Because I think it's interesting. I think you're in a really interesting place, even in your creative journey as a YouTuber, content creator, but then also still holding down a 9 to 5, but then also transitioning into other areas. So can you kind of share a little bit about your own thoughts on this?
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I hear Bart's perspective about like goal setting and setting monthly targets and being and trying to like attain those things, and I think about like how I'm applying that as like an independent creator where um, it's a little bit more abstract, I guess, in terms of like what my goals are right now, although they can still be like quantified down to like X number of growth in subscribers, X number of views, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it may be. But like I'm trying to not let that be the metric that I'm really watching right now. Um, it's more about like what am I creating and like the types of content that I'm creating and sort of defining my audience and defining my voice even more than that. So that's sort of where in the last year, and 2020 has honestly been great from that standpoint, because I've really felt like I've been able to experiment with different formats and different types of videos, and really look at different approaches to what can be done on a platform like YouTube. But ultimately, it's just like, okay, I'm settling into what my rhythm is, what my voice is, and starting to establish some of those processes that will make the things more efficient and be able to meet some of the targets, like putting out a video a week, or every day, or so whatever it may be. um, there has to be some sort of process behind it, and that's sort of what I'm arriving at now. And I think that, like, when I commit to something like, making a video on giving myself sort of a time box and a deadline, regardless of what it is, regardless of what that time box is, I'm going to create something, and
Hmm.
whether it's good or not, that's what's going to be made that day. And then the next day,